whole lot of old VCRs are failing for this one specific reason, and I don't want mine to be the next. So here's why it's happening, and here's what I'm doing about it. So the problem here really comes from this guy, the dynamic drum system. Now, back in the day, this was a good thing. This was a selling point. This was a feature. JVC VCRs throughout the 90s and 2000s very, very often had this feature. And what does it do? It actually doesn't really make a difference for the image quality and when you're just watching back the tape. What it does change is the quality for when you fast forward and rewind. Big whoop. On other VCRs, you get those like wavy kind of distorted lines that break up the image. On this guy with the dynamic drum system, you don't. I don't really care about that. Look, I'm here to capture and digitize tapes for other people. I don't care how pretty it looks when I'm fast forwarding and rewinding. Not an issue for me. Now, who does care more is my VCR. So much so that that feature is mandatory. Basically, if the VCR is not getting an electrical signal from the dynamic drum system, it just powers off after about 3 or 4 seconds. It really is only a matter of time before they break because of how it's built. It has a metal gear and a plastic gear, and after 30 years' time, that plastic gear is wearing out and there's no real replacement. So to summarize what we have so far, I got an expensive VCR that does a great job right now that I don't want to break. It is a feature that I really don't need. But if the gearbox that drives that feature breaks down, the whole VCR becomes so much harder to repair, so much more complicated. Most people at that point just throw out their VCRs. But I got a solution. So here it is. This is the big moment. This is when old meets new. So for years and years and years, there was no real solution to this. There were really awkward workarounds. But this is basically an emulator board. So like I was saying earlier, the dynamic drum system sends an electrical signal to the VCR to say, hey, I'm working. This does it in its place. So the idea is I drop this into my VCR, I plug it in. There's a whole installation guide right here with 2 different installation methods, depending on what your VCR setup currently looks like. I'm somebody who, I think I'm good at technology, but not the best, right? I've definitely opened up devices. I've done my own modifications on stuff before, but each time I get a little bit nervous. So I'm going to give this a try in the next video. This one's already running a bit long. So next video, I'm going to be opening up the VCR, throwing in this little Raspberry Pi Pico from this very, very helpful man in Finland. And hopefully this will solve all my problems. Stay tuned for more.